Hi everyone, it's Kathy. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I'll be creating this super cute shaker card, and I'll be using the Wonky Window 2 die, as well as the Hello Bear stamp set, and the super fun Spring Buzz. This calls for confetti mix. That mix is super cute. It's got clay pieces and confetti pieces. And my favorite bits in this particular mix are the little bumblebees, which I thought would go perfect with the Hello Bear stamp set. I started out by die cutting a piece of Cougar Super Smooth cardstock using the Wonky 2 Windows die set, and I'm going to be using all of the pieces from that die cut piece for my finished card. Next, I took the largest piece from the die cut piece and stamped my little bear using Tuxedo Memento black ink. And then I stamped the little bear again onto a piece of masking paper so that I could cheat on my background a little bit and do ink blending instead of coloring. For the mask, I just used my scissors to do fussy cutting, and the trick when cutting out a mask for an image is you want to make sure that you cut right up on the line of the stamped image so you don't get a halo around your image when you do your ink blending or coloring around your image. While I finish up the fussy cutting, this will be the perfect opportunity to mention that there is an Instagram hop going on now through April 28th, and the winner will be announced on April 29th. Make sure you head on over to Instagram for all the details. There is a chance to win one of two $25 gift certificates, one for the Whimsy Stamps website and one for the This Calls for Confetti website. I'll be sure to have a link to the Whimsy Stamps Instagram page in the description below, as well as all of the products that I used and all of the Copic colors that I used. Anyway, moving right along. After I was finished fussy cutting the little mask for my bear, I placed that on top of my stamped image and did some ink blending with green ink underneath the bear so he could be in a nice green grassy meadow. And then I did ink blending above the bear with a blue ink to give a nice blue sky. Once I was done with the ink blending, I removed my mask and I did some Copic coloring. And I thought I would do something a little different rather than show all of the coloring. I thought that I would just share with you the progression of the coloring. So here's the bear after I added in my darkest color where my shadows would be. And here's the next step where I added in my midtone. And finally, here's the bear finished up after I added in my lightest color. After I was done coloring in the bear, I started working on the beehive. Let me know in the comments below if you prefer to see more coloring or if you would prefer to just see the progression of how an image is colored. Next, I wanted to add some color to the two smaller die cut pieces, so I used one of the yellow markers that I used on the bear's t-shirt to color those really quick. I also made sure to go around the edges of those two pieces just to get rid of that white edge. I wanted to add a little bit of pattern to those two pieces, so I pulled out the Micro Patterns stamp set and inked the stamp with the itty bitty flowers with a slightly darker yellow ink, and then stamped both of those little pieces. Next, I wanted to stamp my sentiment on the very top rectangle piece, which, by the way, I did ink blend that with the same blue ink so that it would match the bottom piece. I placed the die cut frame and the piece for my sentiment into my MISTI, and I placed the beehive there temporarily so I would know where to stamp the sentiment, and the sentiment that I used is HapBee. Here's a little trick for you, because if you're anything like me, you can't ever seem to get these pieces lined up just right. So what I did was I cut a piece of cardstock down to 4 by 5 1/4. Then I used some temporary adhesive on my die cut frame and placed that on top of my cardstock so I could inlay my die cut pieces, and I know that they would be lined up perfectly because they're actually adhered to that piece of cardstock that is the exact same size as the frame. So when I go to put my card together, I won't have it shifted off to one side or the other. After I had those pieces adhered in place, I very carefully removed the frame because I did use temporary adhesive for that. And then I used some liquid glue around the edge of my frame so that I could adhere my first piece of acetate. Once I had the acetate adhered, I used my 1/8 of an inch sticky foam strips and it placed that all the way around the edges and then also around the little sections that are in the center. Next, it was time to fill in my little windows, and I kind of was picky and went through and picked some of the confetti pieces and the clay pieces just so there would be a good mix in my window. Once I had my shaker bits in the windows, I removed the release paper from the sticky foam strips, and then I placed another piece of acetate on top of that. Next, I dug out one of the little clay bumblebee pieces and used liquid glue to adhere that just above the nose of my little bear. After that, I put liquid glue on the back of my shaker frame and adhered that to the top of the bottom panel. Next, I used liquid glue to adhere the beehive on top of the shaker frame, and then I used 2 more of the little bumblebee clay pieces to adhere on top of the little bees that are flying around the beehive. Finally, to finish up my card, I put liquid glue on the back side of my shaker panel, and I adhered that to the front of a top folding A2 sized yellow note card. And that finishes up my card for today. Don't forget to go over to Instagram and hop along with us for the collaboration between Whimsy Stamps and This Calls for Confetti. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not yet subscribed, we'd love it if you would. And don't forget to ring the bell so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.